Well, today we're talking about the carnivore diet, which is a very controversial diet. However, it's a diet that can be really helpful for some individuals. And I'm going to try to give the most balanced approach because we don't have research that a carnivore diet can be really healthy long term. And I am a huge fan of an omnivorous diet where you're consuming lots of healthy plant-based foods as well as animal-based foods. But I also think that there's kind of a bell curve where there's certain individuals that just seem to thrive on a very animal-centric diet where they're consuming very little plants. And there are other individuals that really thrive on a plant-centric diet where they're consuming very little animal products. And so I really think there's kind of a wide space. However, there are so many people out there that are swearing by the carnivore diet and they're getting really great results. And so it's a topic that we really need to cover. And unfortunately, in the health space, some people will just get really upset at the idea that a carnivore diet could be healthy because, they've been told that plant-based foods are the healthiest, most nutrient-dense foods. This is what we should all be eating. And so it really triggers some emotions when people are eating a lot of meat or following a carnivore diet and actually saying it's healthy. But science has actually shown that there are tremendous benefits to animal-based foods. And for some individuals, they can really, really thrive on a carnivore diet. And we're going to go through exactly why that is. We're going to talk about different plant toxins. So you can actually get toxins from plant-based foods. We're going to talk about how a carnivore diet may actually help the gut. We've been told that we need a lot of plant-based prebiotics to support the gut microbiome. And for some individuals, again, they really thrive on that. But there are a lot of people out there that don't. And there are benefits to a carnivore diet, how it can actually help the gut, reduce inflammation in the body, support brain function. We're going to talk about that today. So let's go into this here. And again, just kind of hold back on your biases. If you're following a plant-based diet and you're thriving, that's awesome. This information is really just for educational purposes only. So you can just learn about why people might follow the carnivore diet and get good results. You can understand the science of it. And of course, if you're out there and you're following a carnivore diet, and you're feeling well, you're thriving with it, then great. This is going to just help further your understanding of how it works. And that's fantastic. Now, if you're following a carnivore diet and you're not thriving, you're not doing well, you may not be getting all the benefits here, or you may not be doing it exactly, in the best way. And that I also want to address that as well. So what is the carnivore diet? Of course, is an animal-centric diet. Advocates of the carnivore diet talk about anti-nutrients, things like lectins, phytates, oxalates. These are plant-based anti-nutrients that can steal key nutrients like iron and zinc and can also damage the gut lining and cause poor nutrient absorption. And then an animal-based diet, when done correctly, like a nose to tail animal-based diet where organs are included in there, can provide a tremendous source of nutrients. And we'll talk about that as we go on. So potential benefits of a carnivore diet, well, it improves gut health and autoimmunity. And the reason why is, again, it's free of these plant-based toxins, such as lectins, phytates, oxalates, and salicylates. And it's also very low in FODMAPs. There's a lot of research out about a low FODMAP diet. And FODMAPs are these group of carbohydrates that we find in a lot of plant-based foods: broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, artichokes, right? A lot of these foods that, are considered very, very healthy also have these FODMAP group of carbohydrates that some individuals with damage to their gut and poor digestive juice production and bacterial translocation into their small intestine really struggle to digest. And they create a lot of inflammation, bloating, cramping. They can cause diarrhea or constipation for different individuals. And so again, a lot of research out on a low FODMAP diet, which you can follow and use a lot of plant-based foods if you wanted to. Carnivore diet just inherently is low FODMAP because we only find FODMAPs in plant-based foods. So we don't find them in animal-based foods. Therefore, it's low FODMAP. And that may be one of the main reasons why people are getting great results with their gut health and autoimmunity. Because again, there's a lot of people out there that just do better on a lower FODMAP diet, or at least for a short period of time following a low FODMAP diet. I know for myself, I really have to be careful with the amount of FODMAPs that I consume. I do eat a lot of plant foods. However, if I'm consuming a lot of broccoli, cauliflower, a lot of these types of things, the FODMAPs, I have a certain threshold tolerance, and it can definitely cause more gas and bloating. So I don't consume a tremendous load of those higher FODMAP based foods, the cruciferous vegetables and things like that. And I tend to do better with that. Now, lectins, phytates, oxalates, again, these things can damage the gut. There are some individuals, though, that have a microbiome that is really well intact and can break these down effectively. And they can handle a lot more plant foods, and they seem to do very, very well. And some of these foods can be, kind of a hormetic stressor, meaning that they are a stressor on the gut, but they actually make the body stronger and more resilient. And so if you're healthy and you're able to adapt to these plant-based toxins, then you're able to thrive. And, a lot of people ask me, why do plants create these toxins? Well, there are several theories and ideas behind that, but really the main idea is that they're there for survival. And the idea is that the plants want to weaken their predators. And so they produce these compounds to help protect the key components that keep them alive, like the leaves, the seeds, the roots, these key areas that allow them to thrive and reproduce. And these compounds protect those. And then on top of that, they also weaken the predators when the predators are consuming them. So these compounds, lectins, which are proteins that bind to carbohydrates and act as anti-nutrients. You have phytates, which are the main storage form of phosphorus in plant tissues, such as seeds or bran. They're called anti-nutrients, phytates in particular, because they lower the bioavailability of protein, so you don't absorb protein as well, and key minerals, things like zinc, calcium, magnesium, iron. So phytates help bind and prevent really good absorption there. And then you have oxalates, and you've probably heard of oxalates when you think about things like kidney stones, right? And so they'll blame kidney stones on eating a lot of spinach, because spinach is very, very high in calcium oxalate, and calcium, or I should say oxalates in general, but calcium oxalate stones, kidney stones, are the most common form of kidney stone. So if you're consuming a lot of spinach or other things that are high in oxalates, like nuts and seeds and chocolate, those are all very high in these oxalate compounds, as well as, there are things like rhubarb and other green vegetables that are high in these plant-based crystals that can cause problems with your kidneys. It can actually cause issues with joint pain, cognitive problems, and digestive problems. So that's another big one. And then you have things like salicylates, which for a lot of people can cause, more issues with attention, headaches, different things like that. And we can find these are a group of chemicals with silicic acid base that are found in many different plant foods and cosmetic products, some medications and food preservatives. So salicylates you can find in a lot of healthy things like blueberries, for example, tend to be higher in salicylates. And so, the reality is that all plants are trying to protect themselves, whereas animals try to protect themselves by running away or fighting. Plants protect themselves with these chemical compounds. And we have to be careful with that. Again, for some individuals, they are very mild stressors that actually make the body stronger. And other individuals, just based on their genetics, their microbiome, and their stress load and their toxic load, they may be overwhelming their system and causing more inflammation. So we have to be aware of that. So we talked about the potential benefits of a carnivore diet, improving gut health and autoimmunity. Can also improve blood sugar and lean body mass because it's high in protein and healthy fats. It promotes a state of insulin sensitivity and provides nutrients needed for muscle building. And it also supports mental health because of the diet is high in healthy fats and protein, obviously very low in carbs. And so it promotes insulin sensitivity, which is really key for mental health. And it also promotes the formation of ketones. We've talked a lot about that in our podcast, how beneficial ketones are for brain health, and they help reduce inflammation, and they create something called mitochondrial uncoupling, where they help preserve they help preserve mitochondrial function and stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, or the formation of new mitochondria in the brain when we are able to upregulate ketones. And so that reduces inflammation in the brain, reduces anxiety, and promotes better mood and mental health. And so what do you eat on a carnivore diet? Well, you eat, all different types of meat, beef, lamb, bison, chicken, any kind of meat is okay on a carnivore diet. Ideally, we're going for grass-fed, organic animal products. Why? Because grass-fed is going to have a lot more nutrient density and significantly less toxins. If the animals are eating a lot of grains, they are bioaccumulating glyphosate and all different types of herbicides and pesticides. And it's really bad for the environment as well when they are being raised conventionally, eating these, toxic laden grains. And the animal itself is not healthy. They're dealing with insulin resistance. They have a lot more unhealthy fats, a lot higher omega-6 fats, low omega-3s, lower levels of conjugated linoleic acid, lower levels of vitamin E. So you get a lot less nutrients, a lot more toxins. And our general approach is minimize toxins, maximize nutrients, right? When it comes to nutrition, we want the maximal amount of nutrients in the food we eat. We want the minimal amount of toxins. So going grass-fed organic is ideal. So we're eating meat, we're eating animal fat. A lot of people will cook with tallow, which is beef fat, or you can cook with ghee or butter if you're allowing dairy. Some people eat a lot of dairy on a carnivore diet. They do well with it. Some people don't. They notice that it just triggers more inflammation. They just don't seem to thrive consuming cream, butter, cheese, things like that. Now, in general, on a carnivore diet, you're tending to restrict lactose, which is the dairy sugar. So you're not consuming, a lot of milk, for example, which would be higher in lactose. You may do yogurt, but probably not a lot. So, so those are things that you might consider. Just doing a little bit of dairy fat like butter or ghee tends to be the most well tolerated. Some people do well on cheese, others don't. So you just have to see for yourself. And then fish, right? Wild caught fish and seafood can be really nutrient dense, lots of EPA and DHA, the long chain omega-3s that are in there. And then organ meats as well. So doing liver, heart, you can get heart, liver from your local farmer, dice it up. Liver is very gamey, obviously, the flavor of it. So it takes some getting used to. Heart really tastes a lot like steak, honestly, and it's so nutrient dense, so many B vitamins, coenzyme Q10, carnitine, right? These really powerful nutrients for the body. And a lot of people will say, well, how do you get fiber on a carnivore diet? Well, believe it or not, collagen, which is, what we find in the tendons and the ligaments, it almost acts like fiber. It almost acts like a prebiotic to support the gut microbiome. So it's kind of animal-based fiber, which is, again, the collagen. So consuming the collagenous regions of the animal, like if you're eating a chicken wing or something like that, actually consuming the synovial joint and the capsule where you've got a lot of these types of collagenous fibers in there provides a unique amino acid structure, and the gut microbiome actually really likes collagen. And so it can be really beneficial there. Now, going back to the nutritional benefits of a carnivore diet, there are no plant-based toxins. And again, some people thrive consuming lectins, they just seem to do well, oxalates, and they have no issues. Other people really struggle with them. So if you are struggling with them or you're not thriving, this can be one reason to follow a carnivore diet to reduce the plant-based toxins. It's low FODMAP. Again, a lot of research out on a low FODMAP diet, improving issues with gut function, right? So reducing gut inflammation, bloating, cramping, constipation, diarrhea, and usually those are used for short term. And that's really how I approach the carnivore diet, is kind of a short-term approach where you basically do this for, a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. And then from there, you add back plant foods, and you're looking for the foods that your body seems to tolerate the best. Fruit, maybe lower FODMAP vegetables, if, that's probably a good place to start, things like that. So other benefits of carnivore diet: high in protein. Protein really satiates your body, provides key amino acids to produce white blood cells, to produce obviously lean body tissue, helps support lean body tissue. It's high in fat soluble nutrients. So vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin K2, you're going to get a lot of that in your animal products, especially if you're eating healthy animal fats, grass-fed tallow, egg yolk. If you're doing grass-fed butter, if you're doing organ meats are going to be really rich in these. And they're also high in animal-specific nutrients. What are some of those animal-specific nutrients? Well, retinol, which is a fat-soluble vitamin A, it's the most bioactive form of vitamin A that is necessary for immunity, brain health, vision, skin health, and more. You have zinc. We learned a lot about zinc when it comes to immune health with COVID, right? We know zinc in its most bioavailable form is found in animal foods. Most easily absorbed form is in animal foods, critical for the immune system, skin, it helps stop viral replication, also really critical for skin, brain, liver, cardiovascular, and gut health. Zinc is so critical for the body. We get, again, the best absorption of it in animal foods. I have things like pumpkin seeds, for example. Pumpkin seeds are a very, very good source of zinc, but they also have phytates in them. Seeds have phytates, which bind to zinc. So if you're going to do pumpkin seeds as a plant-based source of zinc, it's always best to get sprouted pumpkin seeds. Sprouted pumpkin seeds, now that reduces the amount of enzyme inhibitors that are in there, and the zinc is more bioavailable and easy to absorb. Now, other animal-specific nutrients, conjugated linoleic acid, which is also called CLA. It's an important fatty acid that improves immune health and metabolic health, really good for turning on fat burning. You have carnitine, which is a critical nutrient for mitochondrial health, helps shuttle fatty acids into the mitochondria. And doing organic acid testing and looking at the mitochondrial health, we see a lot of people that are not getting enough carnitine. And so we get a lot of this carnitine, just like, the name carnivore, carnitine is found in meat. And so particularly red meat. And so we're going to get a lot of that. And that's going to help turn up energy production and fat burning. Carnosine, so not carnitine, now carnosine is a powerful antioxidant. So this is an actual animal-based antioxidant that most people think, okay, if you're consuming an animal-based diet, you're not getting enough antioxidants. But believe it or not, there's unique antioxidants that are found in sustainably raised, grass-fed, wild-caught animal products. Carnosine is one of those. It's a powerful antioxidant that protects against protein denaturation within the body and protects the brain and muscular and cardiovascular system. You also have your long-chain omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, which are critical for brain health, cardiovascular health, vision, immune health, skin health, and so much more. You can find small amounts of DHA, which is the longest chain omega-3 that really concentrates in the brain. You can find small amounts in algae, but not in other plant foods. That's what fish consume, is the algae, and that's how they concentrate it. But you're not going to find it in other plant foods. You're going to find the small chain omega-3, ALA. And it's hard to convert ALA into EPA and DHA. It takes a lot of different liver enzymes. A lot of people have very poor conversion there. So consuming flaxseed as a source of omega-3, it's a source of ALA, which is key, but you can get ALA from consuming grass-fed animal products and things like that. And it's hard to convert that again into EPA and DHA. So consuming some sort of source of EPA and DHA, like wild-caught seafood, can be really helpful. And then, of course, vitamin B12 and heme iron, which are really critical for brain, liver, neurological health, bringing oxygen, in the case of heme iron, bringing oxygen to the tissues. So critical. So a lot of these powerful animal-specific nutrients. And then let's talk about potential problems on a carnivore diet. So we've really, talked a lot about the benefits. Let's take a moment and talk about the potential problems. Well, of course, the diet obviously lacks nutritional diversity and fiber. And so, there's only a certain amount of things you're going to consume on a carnivore diet. It's also potentially too high in iron. Okay. And that can be a serious issue as well. We have a condition called hemochromatosis, where a lot of people concentrate iron. Now, the key with that, typically when somebody has hemochromatosis and they have too much iron in their blood, we got to remember iron is an oxidative element. So too much iron in the blood, you need iron to produce hemoglobin and carry oxygen to the cells, but too much of it could cause more oxidation and accelerate the aging process. So, for somebody that has that tendency and they're consuming a lot of red meat with a lot of iron, they really want to give blood on a regular basis and have their blood drawn and reduce the amount of free iron that's in their blood. That's key. Now, there are plant-based foods like in that's actually one of the benefits of phytates. We talked about phytates being an anti-nutrient and blocking the absorption of key minerals. Well, for somebody with hemochromatosis, that actually may be beneficial because they're already concentrating too much iron. So consuming more phytate rich foods in some cases can be beneficial for those individuals. And if they're following a carnivore diet, they're going to get tremendous load of iron in the diet, and they already have too much iron. So they really need to be giving blood. We talked about the diet lacks nutritional diversity and fiber. Why is that important? Because microbiome researchers say that the amount of diversity of the gut bacteria is one of the most important elements of your overall health. And the way that you get a diverse microbiome is you eat a diverse array of different prebiotic foods, different fibers, right? And so you can eat a lot of collagenous rich foods. That's kind of where the omnivore diet, like a seasonal omnivore diet can be really helpful, because you're consuming animal-based foods, getting the collagen. Ideally, if you're not just focusing on muscle meats, you're getting that collagen, which supports the microbiome. And then on top of that, you're consuming plant-based foods, and you're seasonally grazing. So you're consuming foods that are really in season at the time. So you're getting a lot of variety of foods, which is going to support your microbiome and support diversity in the microbiome. And then, of course, the carnivore diet is low in antioxidants, right? And so we, in general, the way we look at health is we want to keep oxidative stress under control. And so we need a certain amount of antioxidants, and animal-based foods are just not going to have as much. But of course, like I talked about, you have things like carnosine that most people just don't, most health researchers really don't know much about, but it has a powerful antioxidant effect. You also have things like fat-soluble vitamin A, vitamin E. So you are getting antioxidants. You're just not getting the classical phytonutrients, phytochemicals that we find in plants. And you're not getting a tremendous amount of vitamin C as well, right? And these are things that, again, we talk a lot about in nutritional health. We just don't understand the antioxidants that may be found in some animal-based foods. And also, we tend to cook animal-based foods, which is going to reduce the amount of antioxidants and create heterocyclic amines and different things like that, which can be problematic. That's why for years, I've always recommended have your steak, your cooked steak, with like a big salad. So you're getting a lot of antioxidants and phytonutrients, put a lot of herbs on there, basil, oregano, thyme, different things like that to help buffer the formation of these heterocyclic amines, right? And these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that are produced when we're cooking animal products and cooking meat, and acrylamide, which is another potent free radical that can damage a lot of tissue in our body, and that's produced when we're cooking the meat. So we're producing bad chemicals. Now we can marinate the meat in olive oil or something like that, although it's not technically a carnivore diet then. But that's why I've always recommended that, right? And that will help reduce the negative effects. And so again, these are problems that we need to address. And so the diet lacks nutritional diversity and fiber, so it may not support the diverse microbiome. Okay. Now, one thing that's key with a carnivore diet is people tend to be very satiated because of the protein and healthy fats. So it tends to be very easy for them to do intermittent fasting. So they're not consuming, 3-4 meals a day. Instead, they're consuming in a consolidated window, like a 6 or 8 hour eating window. And when they do that, that helps support their microbiome. So there's a lot of research out on intermittent fasting supporting the production of Akkermansia muciniphila, which is a mucus-loving bacteria that sits in our gut and helps the body produce a really strong, healthy, stress-resilient gut mucosa, right? So the immune component of the gut. And intermittent fasting is a great driver for that. So that's one benefit, is that people on a carnivore diet, they tend to just naturally do intermittent fasting, which would negate some of the downsides of the lack of diversity and the lack of fiber. Also, for a lot of people, they'll say, there's too much protein on a carnivore diet. We know that protein can drive up the mTOR pathway, the mammalian target of rapamycin. And the mTOR pathway, when it's driven up all day long, that accelerates the aging process in our body. It's linked to increased risk of cancer. So we need the mTOR pathway for optimal muscle growth and lean body tissue, but we want to keep it under control when we're an adult. When we're a young child, we're growing quickly, mTOR is turned on a lot. When we get older, we want to suppress mTOR a lot. Now, not all the time, but a majority of the day, right? 2-to-1, maybe a 2-to-1 cycle where mTOR is restricted. twice as much as it's activated for as an adult. And we do that through intermittent fasting. And this is why intermittent fasting, if you are on a higher protein diet, is so critical because we want to suppress that mTOR pathway. There's other things that we can do. Just being in ketosis in general, which people that are following a carnivore diet are going to be. So that's going to help suppress the mTOR pathway. Now, there are other things that we can get from supplements or from plant-based foods, things like caffeine, resveratrol, quercetin, curcumin, catechins for like EGCG or catechins, I should say, like EGCG and green tea. Those things all help to suppress mTOR, right? So those are all key. mTOR activators, again, high protein diet, particularly all day long, right? So if we're eating protein from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, and we're just eating every 3 to 4 hours like a bodybuilder, we're activating that mTOR, too much, right? We can grow more muscle that way, but again, we can also accelerate the aging process. So exercise and strength training is interesting because that will actually suppress mTOR, but also activate it at the same time, especially if we're doing fasted exercise, right? Exercising in a fasted state where we've been fasting for 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 hours, then we're exercising. We're really suppressing mTOR, but then when we follow up with nutrition, we're getting a massive activation for helping support our lean body tissue development. So we really need mTOR. We just need to be able to control it, and then we get the optimal benefits there. So if you're following a carnivore diet, the takeaway is this: make sure you're doing intermittent fasting. You should be eating your meals in like an 8-hour eating window, and that will help you get the best benefits here with a carnivore diet and not have overactivated mTOR pathway. So shopping list, what to eat on a carnivore diet. Again, lots of different things: beef, eggs, lamb, bison, fish, shellfish, chicken, wild game, organ meat, right? A lot of different things like that. Healthy fats, butter, ghee, tallow, lamb fat, duck fat, bone marrow, right? So you might do bone broth. You might do, raw honey. Some people will even do, right? Especially if you're getting carbohydrates. Some people will do dairy. Salt, of course, you can put salt on your meat. So these are all things that, that you're consuming on a strict carnivore diet. Now, there are different ways of doing carnivore diet. So 5 main ways. An animal-centric diet is roughly 80 to 90% of your calories coming from animal foods, 10 to 20% from plant foods. And a lot of people doing animal-centric diet like fruit, because fruit has less plant toxins. It has, low to no levels of lectins, of oxalates and phytates. So it has much lower levels because fruit, you think about it, is, how a plant really spreads its seeds, right? It's kind of through animals, predators taking the actual fruit component and taking that away from the plant, and it's kind of spreading it, either spitting out the seeds or pooping out the seeds. And that's how the plant now is able to propagate in different areas. So the idea there with the animal-centric diet is you avoid the most well-defended plant-based foods and you consume the lesser defended. And you think about like our ancestors, they would celebrate over fruit, right? Or honey or something like that. Whereas vegetables would tend to be like a fallback food. If they couldn't get enough animal foods, enough fruit, things like that, then they would fall back on vegetables, right? So it's more of a fallback food rather than like something that they, gravitated towards. Basic carnivore diet is where you consume 100% animal products. And you can also do salt and water. And a lot of people do this again as an elimination diet for a short period of time. I wouldn't recommend more than like 3 months doing that because again, we just don't know long-term what's going to happen. However, doing it for a short period of time, maybe 2 weeks, a month, a lot of people are seeing really great results, kind of like a reset, a full elimination diet, taking out these plant-based toxins can be really helpful for some individuals. Again, strict carnivore diet is 100% red meat. So you're not even consuming fish. You're not consuming chicken or poultry or anything like that. So that's even stricter of an elimination diet. So you're consuming beef, lamb, and bison, basically, and then salt and water. And then there's the head to tail carnivore diet. It's a basic carnivore diet. So it's 100% animal products, and it emphasizes eating organ meats, bone broth, and all the different parts of the animal to provide the highest nutrient levels. That's really, I think, the healthiest approach to a basic carnivore diet. It's harder because you got to do organ meats, bone broth, things like that, but you're getting a lot more nutrient diversity when you do that. And then you have the seasonal carnivore diet, where you eat a carnivore diet during the winter or colder months of the year. And during the spring, summer, and fall, you eat an omnivorous diet with plenty of plant foods. I think this is a really good strategy for a lot of people, where you're just kind of doing this seasonally. In the wintertime, a lot of plant-based foods would be less available. And so, you might for a month or two in the winter, just consume animal-based products and then have more of a wider omnivorous diet the rest of the year. So I think that's a really good strategy for somebody that, wants to embrace this. But, there's people doing all 5 of these, and some people are thriving doing this. And so, I don't want to put down any one of these. And I just want us to be open-minded that a carnivore diet can have great benefits, and that the idea that plant-based foods are the best foods for everybody, that idea, that nutritional dogma may not be correct. They may be the best foods for some people, and it may be you. They may be the best foods for you. They may not be. So we really need to be open-minded when it comes to approaching nutrition and approaching different nutritional approaches. And now some different supplements that could also be beneficial, especially if you're following a basic carnivore diet, you're not getting enough organ meats. You could supplement with like a good quality grass-fed beef liver, which is a great source of preformed vitamin A. It has bioavailable B complex, choline, iron, copper, zinc, right? Great, obviously great for liver, kidney, and mitochondrial health. And then also potentially some probiotics as well. And you can get a really good one. I like Mega Spore Biotic, which can really help support the gut microbiome. It helps support your body's ability to break down and metabolize the meat more effectively. You may also consider something like betaine HCl, some extra stomach acid support if you're following this sort of a nutrition plan, especially if you just don't feel great. You consume a steak or something like that, and you've got indigestion. That could be a sign that you're not producing enough stomach acid. So probiotics can be helpful there. And also some extra betaine HCl can be helpful. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this training. Again, the idea is let's be open-minded. The carnivore diet can be incredibly therapeutic, and it has been for so many people, but it may not be the best diet for you. And it may not be the best diet for the vast majority of people. We just don't know yet. However, there are people that are thriving in it. And so if you're somebody out there that likes to experiment with nutrition, maybe you're not thriving with your health, it's something to consider. And hopefully this training really helped provide great information for you. You can also check out the detailed article all about the carnivore diet on drjockers.com. So be sure to go ahead and check that out. And guys, thanks for bearing with me. I got like a little bit of a cold, so you may have noticed that in my voice. I had to cough a few times. So just a really, really minor cold, still doing great, really thriving, doing this video, of course, and working as normally, but just had a little bit of a cough there. So hopefully guys, you got a lot out of this training, and we will see you in a future online training. Be blessed, everybody.